الليل مسافر أنا ما جبر الخاطر لي أنا الليل مسافر أنا ما جبر الخاطر الساعة
And welcome to this episode of Babiker the Traveler. Before we start the podcast, I just wanted to add a quick disclaimer. We talk about a lot of political things in this podcast, so I did censor a lot of what we talked about. The full unedited version can be found on Patreon if you're interested in that. But yeah, without further ado, please enjoy this episode. We have a very wonderful guest. Enjoy.
The water's right in front of you.
It's in the best position, bro. Right, welcome to Babiker the Traveler's podcast. We now have a very special guest with us, Deeq Abdi.
Deeq
Abdi from Somali American. Very interesting story, very interesting upbringing, and we'll be getting into it today. So I met, how do you say this again? Deeq. Oh, okay. It's like the ya بالسكون. Okay, the Arab viewers would understand that.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
it's like chicken or something, right?
The Deeq, that's
Deeq.
Deeq is chicken. Yeah.
I've heard this before, yes.
But yeah, it's a very interesting name. But anyways, so I've been going to a lot of comedy shows recently, doing a lot of comedy, and I met you on one of the shows. I actually met your father on first, and then he told me about you. It's like we would get along well, and we have indeed. So yeah, tell us about yourself. Give us an introduction first, and then see what gets from there.
Well, thank you for having me on for sure. I appreciate that. I think it's serendipitous or, interesting and beautiful for people like you and me to be in a place that we aren't from. And I feel like that the both of us coming from Muslim backgrounds and African backgrounds help us navigate towards each other in a place where there isn't that many of us. So
for sure.
Appreciate it. But yeah, my name is Deeq. I was originally born in Somalia. Moved to the United States in 1998, February. I was 8 years old. Grew up in the Midwest, in a state called Minnesota, in a city called Minneapolis. And it's, it's pretty, it's like the city, there's two cities, there's Minneapolis and St. Paul. And then around it, there's like the first ring of suburbs, which kind of people that work in the city but don't want to live in the city kind of live in those surrounding suburbs. And, it's probably the most diverse place within, besides Chicago. That's
a very Chicago is where my sister's moving, but a very diverse place.
Yeah, Chicago is really beautiful, and it's about 6 hours from where I live. 6 hour drive, so it's not too bad. But Minneapolis in itself is very diverse. It's got the largest Somali population in North America, so there's about 100,000 Somalis there. Roughly, maybe 60,000. I might be overshooting. But it seems like there's 100,000 there all the time.
And that's what I feel about Somalis everywhere. No? They're just there. Wherever you go, they're popping out. Right? Let me just add a drink and just fucking prop this shit up because it is. Yeah, you can. I think we need just a better. No, like this. This is very strong.
That's just okay.
Yeah. Let me just put that right there. All right, we're good. Right, so back.
Thank you so much. I feel like there is an audience already.
You feel it, right? It's good. Yeah. So you talk about where you grew up. So as a Somali immigrant, so you moved there when you were 6, right?
8.
When you were 8. So how did it first feel? Like, did you know any English before you came? Did you just have to learn it?
I had to learn everything on the fly, and I didn't know how to read. I didn't know how to write. I didn't know how to speak the language.
Wow. Okay.
So I pretty much started at the very, very bottom, but like the one thing that I had going in my favor is that I was 8 years old. So I started my education curriculum with American kids. They start elementary school around 8. So I started first grade all the way up to 12th grade. And I really didn't get confident with the language till about 5th, 6th grade. And then 7th and 8th grade, I was like, I got the culture down, but I was like, I was like rebellious, as they would call it. But, I was like, I decided like it's really, America is very unique in the way that like in many countries, there's really only few multi-racial societies in the West that like many of the races kind of commingle, and like, there isn't really any distinction sometimes, but there is some distinctions. It's really just under the surface. But in the U.S., like I was raised, like you met my stepfather. He's white, and I was raised in a multiracial home of like Somali culture, white American culture, and like we kind of in the beginning, I was kind of living like a middle class childhood, both parents working, we lived in a house, we lived kind of in a neighborhood where there wasn't any Somali kids, there was like one Somali
White street, okay.
Yeah, so I was able to catch the culture really fast.
All right,
Because it was at home and it was at school. Where some people, like, they leave school and then they go into another culture.
Yeah, true.
For me, I was able to leave school and kind of go.
Yeah, you were sort of in one culture for that period.
For that period.
Yeah.
So I was able to catch on, but then, like, there's a strange thing that happens. It's not strange, it's just a thing that happens to men of color, black men, especially in the United States, whether they're African American, whether they're Somali, whether they're, just anybody that's brown or black of African descent. There's something that happens where you realize that like societally, like people are kind of afraid of you and they see you kind of as a boogeyman, and like, especially young black men that are heading like that are leaving their adolescence and hitting like manhood, that period between like 13 and like 19 and 20, like they see you as a threat always.
Wow.
Like you're always a suspect. You're not seen like I felt that.
From what age? From 13, 14?
From like 13, like so.
Okay. That's very young to have that feeling.
Yeah, no, it's fucked up, man. So Brendan was my stepdad who I'm visiting here, and my mom, they got divorced, and so then I ended up moving with my grandma to St. Cloud, which is like a very small town in Minnesota. It's very racist. There's no sugarcoating it. Like I was walking home from school and someone literally yelled outside to their truck, "Go home, nigger." And so,
yikes.
Yeah, it was pretty fucked up. And like in my school, they like kind of would just like blame me for things, and like I remember my teacher called my mom once and said I was gonna be the leader of a gang if I wasn't stopped. Some fucked up shit to say they were little, like I was.
Little kid.
Yeah,
it's funny. Like
13.
Yeah, I mean at this stage, how old are you?
I was like 12, turning 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I remember reading things similar to this when I was reading Malcolm X's biography. I don't know if you've read that book.
I have.
Felt like it's kind of crazy that like it's like there are places where it's still like it's still like this. Like
it's still very much like this.
Holy crap, that's crazy.
Like, they try to criminalize you and like make you feel like the boogeyman. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, fuck it. You think I'm the bad guy? Then fuck it, I'll be the bad guy.
Yeah, that's it's funny. I felt a little bit of this when I was in the UK. I don't think I lived long enough to feel, I guess, the full weight of it. But I remember when I was a kid in school, I always felt like people expected me to like behave badly, and I would because of that. Like, there's this very weird like thing about like cultural expectations that like they kind of push you to do it, actually do it.
You kind of feed into
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I was a very bad kid when I was in the UK. I'd fucking steal all the time for no reason. Honestly, like, it was a problem. Like, and it was very funny because I radically changed when we moved to Sudan and then to Saudi Arabia. Like, those expectations just disappeared. I was like the average guy. And like, people expect, like, if I do something bad, like, you're just a piece of shit. Like, you're not, oh no, he's the black guy. We expect him to do this assignment. you're just like the same as everyone else. So it's like, if anything, especially in Saudi, like you actually have high expectations because you're a foreigner, and so people expect you to behave like better than average, kind of. It's like the opposite, and so you kind of do. But it's very interesting like how society's expectations push you to like fulfill them. Yeah,
absolutely. So it was really, so then I left St. Cloud, came back to Minneapolis, and it was funny when I got back. I kind of bought into that, like, oh, you're you're a rebel, you're a black guy, you should be like, tough, you should be hard, you should be like, fuck you, kind of bought into that, and like I always felt like I had to be like, because of the Somali kid who didn't grow up around other Somalis, and and Minneapolis is also like a distinction between African American.
Minneapolis is like a very white place, right? Like John Green is from there. I think I follow him.
John Green.
I don't know if you know him. He's like a very white author. He's also a vlogger. He's a very cool guy. Like the Green brothers. It's like it's John and the other guy. I can't believe I forgot what the other guy's called. But like, yeah, he wrote quite a few famous novels. But like, yeah, like that's the only reason I know Minneapolis. It
used to be very white. It used to be very white. Now we have a large Latino, Ecuadorian, Mexican, some Hondurans, and we really have like a mix. We have a really large Somali population, which is the most dominant East African population now. But then we also have Oromos, we have Ethiopians. So like it's very diverse in Minneapolis and St. Paul. But if you go like an hour in any direction, it is white out race.
That's how it rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, I mean, what was so like, what did you do during this phase of yours?
Man, during this phase of my life, man, I think that phase really kind of continued into probably my late 20s.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's a long phase, right?
That's a long phase. I mean, it went through different phases.
But yeah, how to get? So like, what did you do at the start? Like,
in high school, I was kind of out of 8th grade. I was like kind of just like hanging out with some weirdos, like some like pseudo gangbangers and shit. And then I was like, fuck this, they're kind of crazy. But then I started like kind of hanging out with like potheads and people that smoke weed, and that was cool. But then as I got out of high school, I started hanging out with people that like went out often and then kind of did harder drugs and shit. And like, I even went through this phase where I would go to hippie music festivals where I do psychedelics.
Okay.
We might have to edit that out.
No, it's fine, bro. But like, it's interesting. Yeah, like I feel like drugs now in the US are like very, very mainstream. Like it's like
they're getting there, man. They're super getting there.
Like,
what really irked me was, in the US, black people of color, like get arrested for like drugs, go to prison, like their lives are fucking ruined.
Turned upside down, yeah.
And
from ways that you often can't recover from. Like,
like
criminal
for me,
justice.
I have a felony now, and I'm gonna recover from it because I am, I like to think that I'm smarter than the average Joe, but I'm also blessed with like really wonderful people in my life that are helping me and like assisting me and move forward instead of like being like, oh, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. They're like, no, dust yourself off, move forward. If you move correctly and properly from here on out, this could be something beneficial and be like, look at where I was at and look at where I'm at now and how far I've come instead of using it as an excuse to be like, oh, no.
I can't do shit. I mean, here you are, right? Like,
here I am, like, living around, doing my thing, meeting people. But the thing
that's how so it started mostly drugs, but you didn't do like any actual crimes, like
no, I that's it.
That's the worst.
I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't rob anybody. I didn't physically assault anybody. Nothing.
All right.
Just a little bit. Yeah. So it's just like it's really like there's no wiggle room, But in that time I also was working at nonprofits. I was like doing after school tutoring for like Somali kids, and like at a library, and then at a community center. I was like, and like my really saving grace is like I got into like poetry and writing and like thinking about like activism and like revolution and shit like that. Like
how did you get to meet, I guess, the Somali community? Like
I graduated high school and I was in this program called Speak, which is like Speak stands for
Well, what's it about? Like, you don't have to tell me what it means. No one cares.
No one cares. Speak. It's like a community organizing program that talks about like how to change the system within and from within and from without. So like learning how to talk to like city council people who are your city council people. You know, how do you
get you involved into like local politics,
into civic politics, and like how do you, if you want to get something changed in your community, who do you talk to? Do you want to get some new basketball hoops in the park? Who do you talk to? Who will pay for that? Stuff like that, you know? How do you advocate for yourself and the system?
And I would assume it's mainly targeted towards immigrants and like
people of color, immigrants, the downtrodden.
People who don't really know how to get around with these things.
So it's like it teaches you that. But I was trying to get to the felony thing. One thing, like black people and people of color get arrested for that and go to jail and their lives are ruined. But as I found out, kind of like I had a best friend who was like upper middle class white kid, and that's who I really hung out with. And he was like my brother, and like he got me to go to this like really exclusively white music festivals.
Okay.
And like what blew my mind was that like all these like upper and middle class white kids would go pay $300 to enter this music festival, and it was just like a free zone. You could do anything.
That's how these things are. I hear the stories. From the music festivals around here. They're pretty much the same, I'm guessing.
It's like an open book. Like you're like, boom, go. It's like it's like one of those Monopoly or life games where it's like you get out. It's like a
jail-free card. There's no police here. Do whatever you want, bro.
Right? But like, and I was like, if it was like 500 to 1,000 black, brown kids doing this, it would fucking bring in the National Guard, bro. You know what I mean? Because it comes back to that criminalization of people of color. Like they don't trust them to be able to behave properly in an environment like that, and that large of a group. You know what I mean? And so that really also like kind of tweaked my thinking of things, and I was just like, that helped me kind of change. I had my high school degree, but I didn't just think about college for a while, and so I started thinking about college and like what I wanted to do. I was teaching kids at the time, like doing like my own programming, doing after school programs, working at a couple of community centers. And I also did something called AmeriCorps, which is like kind of volunteer, but it's like an apprenticeship that's paid by the federal government to work in communities, underprivileged communities.
It's cool that they pay you for these kind of things.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's helped me grow, and that's part of the way that I got into the Somali community. Is like I was working, doing that, and then a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I used to work at the library. I'm about to leave. My position's up for hiring, and I think it'd really be great for it." And so she recommended me, and I got in that way. And then all of a sudden, I think I was 18 when I started, and I found myself, trying to create curriculum for, 30 Somali kids.
Wow.
5 days, 4 days a week, 5 days a week.
Wow, that's an amazing job. Yeah.
So I did it, man. I did it for 2 years. It was really fun. But what really, they were just shocked at the fact that I spoke no Somali really. I didn't really know the culture.
You were disconnected.
I was very disconnected from my culture and my roots, and they really them kind of clowning on me, but also it was kind of brotherly love because they really liked me a lot, and I was their big brother. They would come in, and I'd always say what's up, play video games with them, give them snacks, shoot the shit with them, and and they helped me kind of pick the language back up, and like I found myself all of a sudden, like instead of gravitating away from my people, like kind of gravitating back towards my culture, and like, finding myself in more circles and more rooms where there's really only Somali people in there, and like I felt comfortable there. It was kind of weird. I started to feel uncomfortable in places where I was the only person of color or the only Somali person.
Yeah.
And like so, I try to kind of bring all that back together, and bring my people towards me. So, yeah.
It's definitely an amazing experience. Like just when you're disconnected, and I guess you don't feel like you're doing it.
I like this. You got like something on the very top of your hat. Here, I'll just grab it. It's like some, whatever that was. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I can see it.
The cameras are probably too far away. Hopefully. But yeah, like I like that feeling of, I feel like you never, I guess, feel, you can never really know how disconnected you are until you are connected, until you meet people from where you're from. You meet, like sometimes, you know, I mean, I haven't been to my home country, Sudan, in like 4 years, so it's been a while. So I'm supposed to go there like next week, so I'm already preparing myself mentally for like the culture shock again. Because like every time I go there, it's like things have changed since when I've last been. It's like people have changed. I have to catch up to date with the new slang and the new everything. It's like all the cool stuff, the new mentalities, and you never really know like how much you're missing out on, like I guess your people's experience until you talk to them about that stuff, right? So yeah, and so after these 2 years, like what did you do after that? So how old were you at this point?
I was 19. No, at this point I started at 18, so I was like 21.
20, yeah.
And this was really like when I felt a new sense of freedom. Because in the U.S. at 21 you can drink, and so things kind of just went off the rails there. And that's kind of when I like started going heavy into like selling drugs, you know, like, going to music festivals. Like one whole summer, all I did was go to music festivals across the entire country, and that was, it was eye opening and it was really fun. I met some really cool people that I'm really no longer friends with, but I was friends with for a while, and I'm a believer in that everyone that comes into your life for a reason, you know? And I have no negative feelings towards any of these people. I don't think any less of them because I've changed, because I've decided to move forward with their life and they're in the same predicament or they're still kind of in the same circle. No sort of anything.
You don't look down on them.
No, it's not my job to look down on anybody, you know? I think my job is to be the best human being I can be, and not that I'm flawed, but, I'm trying to make myself better, and then everybody else around me is flawed, and they're hopefully working to make themselves better, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so and how long did that continue?
That continued to I don't know, that continued really till I was about 27, but I took a
lot of years.
Yeah, I took a break. I know, thank you for telling me. I'm 31 now.
God damn.
My eyes are open, and fuck it. I'm here now, and
yeah, you're here now. It's fine.
Yeah,
life is fine.
Some people arrive late.
Yeah, it's good, bro.
I think about it like a party,
That's a very long party, though. Some people are still in that party, much later. Some people never make it. Some people fucking die in that party, right? Like some people never leave. So yeah.
So but in the process of that, I moved to Philadelphia for about a year and a half, and that was really cool. Philadelphia is a really, really big city compared to Minneapolis would be not even a third of the size of Philly. It would be Philly is 56 by 56 miles. It's huge. Or kilometers, that would be
you don't have to translate. No. Let's just give. Do you know the population of it?
Yeah, it's we can look it up. It's
well, maybe I'll look it up and add it here in the video somewhere. But whatever.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's in the millions.
It definitely. any city is usually in the millions.
Yeah, and it's on the East Coast, so like it's like
East
right,
Coast,
it's
yeah.
like across the river from New Jersey, which there's another big city, Camden, across the river from it. So it's like a really big population center area. But like I was really scared to go there. I was like, I'm leaving everything that I know. I went there to organize kind of a leftist political conference.
You're really into politics.
I'm very into politics.
Okay.
And politics is really the one thing
okay.
that like controls everybody's lives, and nobody really thinks about it too often.
Yeah.
Politics is the only, through politics people can teach you how to dress, how to talk, how to walk, and what to eat and where to sleep. So it's very important.
I tend to think that people who are into politics tend to sometimes overvalue their influence, but I can understand what you mean. Like policies, and politics, it does have that influence.
Yeah.
Does have very strong influence.
Who gets what at the table?
Yeah, for sure. No, it definitely does matter a lot. Yeah. So what do you do in politics? Throughout?
I was working with a lady that was kind of working for the Green Party. She was running for the Green Party. Green Party, you know what the Green Party is in the U.S.?
I think they're not the Democrats or the Republicans. So
they're like
that already means that. So they don't matter, basically.
They don't matter at all. They like to think they matter, and they're trying to make leeways, but I don't think in the U.S. it's a two-party system. It's really not even democracy. You know what I mean?
I mean, you could argue it's not a very good democracy, but
it is a democracy, but it's not a very
shitty one.
It's a very shitty democracy.
Yeah.
And so I was helping to kind of help her run, and there was a conference called I forget what it's called, but there was a conference in Philly. It was held at Temple University, and I met some really cool people, some really influential people. I met Cornell West, who's an African American professor, pretty famous in the U.S. Immortal Technique, who's one of my favorite rappers. Have you ever heard of Immortal Technique?
No.
Immortal Technique, pretty hardcore revolutionary rapper. He's also he's from Bolivia, or maybe he's from Peru, but he grew up in New York, so he's part of that American, but not typical American. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was really cool to meet him, and I really liked Philly, but I wasn't making much money, so I went back to Minneapolis, went back to my old ways, and really that's when I got my felony, was 2018, and that's when
that's very recently. That's wow. That's 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was my wake up call. I was
this time.
I'm about to be 30. What the fuck am I doing with my life? I mean, do I move forward and continue on with the same shit, or do I try to change it and try to better myself? And so I went really hard at school. I got my associate's degree, and I was all right, now I just gotta do 2 more years to get my bachelor's. So I'm 1 year away from getting my bachelor's degree in nonprofit management. And I'm really hoping to kind of work at trying to work and helping to change people's lives, mainly through literacy. I think it's going to be my place to go, because I think if someone knows how to read, they have a better chance of success in this world today, because it's just such a...
I mean, do you mean people who actually can't read, or you mean just make them enjoy reading?
No, people that can't read.
Oh, okay.
They can't write their names. You know? I actually have family members that can't read and write.
Oh, so back in Somalia.
Yeah, and that's the bigger part. During this pandemic, I really was I wasn't going out, I wasn't really spending any of my money. I got laid off from my job, so they gave me a little chunk of money, and then it was a stimulus check from the government as well, and all that kind of added up to a nice chunk of change. And I was what am I gonna do with this?
It's time for a trip.
It's time for a trip. And I also got on probation for that felony, so that I can actually legally leave the country. And that's I was on a 3-year probation.
You can't do that, yeah.
So 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, I was able to leave the country.
That's when you decided to leave for
So that's when I was like, fuck it. Like, and my dad got sick, and so I was really scared that like it was like I haven't seen him in 23 years. If he dies, and I'll never forgive myself. You know.
Yeah.
I'll always be like, oh fuck, you know. I never at least saw him once, you know.
Yeah.
So I figured it was time to go home.
And so you went, and so tell us about your trip to Somalia. You already told me about, like, you know, you can go into details, how did you even, like, did you have contact with your parents back there, like your dad, like their family, like what?
Somalis are very good at keeping in contact with each other. You know,
never cut off.
Not a cut off. You're always someone.
He'll just be in the village, like sending you WhatsApp messages, like.
Yeah, or he'll send someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows someone that I might know to send me the message.
Yeah,
because it's like we're very, you know, we're a very tribal community. So like the tribe is like very important still, and like so even if it wasn't talking to me, but I've been talking to my cousins or my uncles or like extended family, and
it would reach you.
It would reach me eventually. Maybe my cousin would see me on the street and be like, "Yo, call your dad."
That's how it goes. Yeah.
But you know, right around 2019, I really started talking to him a lot more. My Somali was getting better, so we were able to conversate a lot more.
I would assume he like only knows Somali.
He only knows Somali.
Yeah.
So and really the conversation was always like, I need money. Can you give me money? And I had 200 bucks.
That's how our families are back home. Send me money, bro.
That's how it is.
Oh my god.
You know.
I'm going to Sudan next week. Don't remind me.
Yeah, there's gonna be so many hands. Like, come on, you came from the US, you know you got money. Or you came from Europe, you know you got money.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
And so I would send my dad here and there, and I was like, as I was talking, I was like, I think I'm gonna come visit. And I don't think he really believed it. I was like, in 3 months, I'm gonna leave the US. I will let you know. And like, I would just kind of and like, it really like that brought my family back to me in many ways as well. Because like everybody in the family, even the ones in the US, were like, oh my god, Dad's going back home. That is fucking, you know, that's
awesome,
crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's awesome. Because I think a lot of them thought that I was like a goner and like I didn't.
No hope.
No hope. Yeah.
That's great. You rekindled that.
Yeah. So like then I was able to like, you know, just a bunch of things. Like my aunt in France was like, I all of a sudden started talking to her and building a relationship with her. My other cousins, like, you know, my biggest sister, who's also like my cousin, but I call her sister because we grew up together. Like we got really close, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna give you my money. You're gonna send it to me when I get there, because like there's that informal like money sending system, and like, we have our own ways of getting money home.
Your own banking system.
Yeah, we do have.
Just basically just give someone who gives someone who gives someone.
We have like a bank. It's called Dapshit. It's an international bank.
Oh, right.
It's like,
you guys are better than Sudan in that case.
Yeah.
It's fucking, I mean, things are improving a lot now, but like it used to be, you basically have to know people who are like flying over to Sudan. You give them the money, they give them the money.
We give it to a guy in Minneapolis, and then he wire transfers it to the bank in Somalia.
Hey, alright, you guys are good. You guys are better than us.
But I told her like I couldn't do it myself, so she did it for me, and like I went back home. I went to Ethiopia for a week, Addis Ababa. Mainly, I went there because that was the last city that I flew out of in '98. I flew out at the subway airport to the U.S. So I figured it was just kind of like a full circle.
I don't think there's a direct flight from like the U.S. to Somalia, probably, right?
No, like, and the other thing was I was gonna fly to Nairobi because I was like, I want to see Nairobi, be there for a week, but then Nairobi cut off diplomatic relations. Kenya cut off diplomatic relations with Somalia. They were like, we're not going to continue flights. And then I even tried to fly from Dubai to Hargeisa.
Yeah, I think that's the most common.
But like they also cut that off.
Oh my god. Okay.
And so I was freaking out last minute. I was like,
is there anyone who I can still travel from?
At this point, I was so committed that I was like, fuck that. Like, there's no stopping me. I'm
going.
Yeah. So then I was like, and so I bought a ticket to Addis Ababa, and you could fly from Minnesota to Hargeisa, Somaliland, Somalia. They don't know what to call it. it's just
Yeah. It's one of them.
It's
one of the two.
It's one of the same, I would say.
Yeah. All right. So you went into Somalia, and how was it? Like, how going there for the first time in like 2 decades?
It was eye-opening, man. Like it was Somaliland. Hargeisa was really cool. Like, I mean, it's poor. It's very poor. The roads are very poor. You know what I mean? I'm used to driving on like
roads,
not rocks. You know what I mean?
Not like dirt and sand.
Not dirt and sand.
Oh my God!
But, you know,
I just remembering all the rides in Sudan. Just
you get used to it after a while, but at first you're like, man, this
it's had that like crazy.
It hurts your head.
Yeah.
Your head is this perpetual headache.
Yeah.
And so I got there. My dad and brother picked me up at the airport. Of course, we all cried. It has to happen. You know, we're men, but it's been a long time. You know, it's been.
Yeah, I seeing your son for the first time in 23 years now, or your dad.
I left when I was a little boy and I came back.
Like I haven't seen my dad in 4 months, so I wouldn't be surprised if
when
we meet this with that, but like,
But so, you know, and it was just like, it felt so good for me, man. Like, you know, I always, like, all those years, like, that long party that you talked about, man, and that period of my life, I think I went through that period because I felt so alone, you know?
Yeah.
And I hung out with those people because it gave me a sense of community. A sense of belonging.
Yeah, I know that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a system where I felt like I didn't belong in a city, in a place, and like. Going back home gave me a sense of belonging and being like, these are my people. This is my dad. This is my brother. I look like them. They look like me. You know.
So tell us a bit about like what you guys did. Like, where did they take you? What activities did you enjoy?
So my family, we were in Hargeisa one night, and then we left, and then we went to Bedouin. We got in a van. We rented, so they had like, you know, buses that go from city to city. So it's like a small bus. We rented that. My cousin was there with them too, and we drove the next day to Bedouin, which is about like an 8-hour drive. So pretty much the whole next day. And then we got to Bedouin. My aunt owns a house there, the one that I went to go visit in France, where a bunch of my relatives live. So I was there for 2 nights, but it's a smaller city. But it's also kind of the same, you know. There's a bunch of buildings. There's no high rises, obviously, but there's, you know, and like there's no infrastructure. But there's a bunch of cars. There's no. I'm so mad at the motherfucking drivers, man. I was ready to box. Like, and the country.
People there do not obey.
No, they don't obey. But then also, like, where I'm from, pedestrian has the right of way. There is no such thing as pedestrian.
No one has the right of way except you, where we're from.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
So I definitely.
It's not about the right of way. It's about, do you want to get killed or do you want to just wait for the car to
move?
That's
I came with a little American arrogance. I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean?
No, that shit. I still like here. I stop if I see a car, even like if I'm on the pedestrian line. And like I would always create this awkward situation where like they're waiting for me to cross and I'll be waiting for them to move, and they're just looking at me and I'm just looking at them like, I'm not used to cars giving me this respect.
You're like, oh, thank you.
Like honestly, like every time, thank you. So nice, so great.
And so. Yeah, we got to Bedouin, you know, and I feel like Sudanese and Somalis are the same way. Like, family is of importance.
Of course.
So I met all my little cousins. Like, I have a really big family, and I think it's beautiful. Like, I felt so alone for so long, but like, yet there was all these people that showed me so much love, and they're like, behind the depth, like, blah, 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 love, like, we ate, we chilled.
It's very crazy when like people you never like have met in your life like just kind of love you because they're your family and that's
and
it's
like
weird.
it's weird. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting all this love and respect out of nowhere just because of my name. Thank you. Because my dad.
Yeah, I remember. And like my dad's family, like when I would visit Sudan, my dad's family is very big. I always feel bad because I wouldn't remember all of them.
Yeah, that's how I know.
They just like I would maybe remember my uncles, but like I'd never remember their kids because like each one, like my dad has 6 brothers and 3 sisters.
Yes.
And like they all have like 6, 7 kids. Like I don't. If you ask me how many cousins I have, I don't know. It's like,
exactly.
It's like so many, and so it's like I maybe remember like the ones that I hung out with the most, barely. But like that's it. It's like you just and even those like I barely remember their names on like a few aspects of their like you don't know them, but like still these guys they would hang out, they would do everything for you. Anything you ask them, when you're visiting, they'll do like that respect and things that
they'll hold your hand.
They'll hold your hand.
Literally.
That's how it goes. Yeah, literally and figuratively.
I was like, my brother was holding my hand, and I was like, so why do they hold hands here? He's like, how else would they know we're together? And I just started laughing and stuff. I'm like,
yeah, it's weird because
we can talk, we can like hang out, we can be sitting together the whole time. I'm sure we'll get the message.
Yeah. But that's the thing. This is something that's kind of like it's very un-Western. It's like in Saudi and Sudan, like in Arab, Muslim, and even African culture. Like when you're like hanging out with someone, especially if it's just one person, like you'll be like fucking holding that guy's hand, like arm in arm, like to a Western audience, you guys might look gay, but but like for us, it's like no, this is like brotherly love. Like come on, bro. Like I'll show you around, bro. Like it's cool, bro. No homo, bro.
It was really funny. But it was also like
it's endearing. Yeah,
it's very endearing. It's beautiful. Like I held my brother's hand. Like I slept in the same bed as my brother. Like it was beautiful.
I hate sleeping out because every time we go to my dad's village, they would make us sleep outside, and the mosquitoes would eat us alive. I don't know.
I had the best time. No, like I'm getting to that. We did that. So my family, my dad, like you said, is also from a very large family. He's the youngest of 4 brothers, and 3 sisters, 4 sisters. I don't know. See, it's a big family. But so we part of my family is Western. Some live in the UK, some live in the United States, and some live in France. And then some live here that are like my adopted family, not my given family, but my chosen family.
Yeah.
And so my dad, my brother, my sisters, they all live kind of in the traditional way. They live in the village. They live the nomadic herding lifestyle where they.
How much livestock does your dad have? What's the big? Well, come on, let's see your weight of your
my dad has about 50 camels.
What? Wait, for real?
For real, yeah.
Wait, 50 camels? Yeah. Holy shit, bro! Your dad's loaded. What?
Yeah, no, and it's still 50 camels. Yeah, I'm like, you don't know the economic value.
Bro, 50. Do you know how rich this guy would be if he sold those in Saudi? You know how much one camel is worth in Saudi?
How much?
We're talking millions of riyals. You know,
how much is 1 riyal?
1 riyal is a third of a dollar. That's good money. $300,000. That's one camel. Your dad would literally be a millionaire if he sold this shit in Saudi.
Well, that's why we're friends and we.
Are we talking about this is a business opportunity I'm feeling here?
It's a business opportunity, of course. Because I have the US passport, so it's like
I think we can do this,
I'm you speak everything. This is just a prelude to a business partnership. What are you talking about, bro? So yeah.
Anyways, I wasn't expecting that, but alright.
Mad sheep.
Damn.
We have mad sheep. They only really have sheep and camels. And goats.
Yeah, but that's the stuff.
They have
those are back in the day, when they were developing, I guess, the rules of Islamic law and taxes and stuff. There would be taxes on sheep and camel. Some people don't have cash back in those days. Their wealth is camels and sheep and that shit, and they would tax them. You have to pay with a camel, a certain meat or certain dairy produce of that.
That's our culture, and that's how my family lives. My dad's, money or his bank account and his camels and sheep. Because one camel died when I was there. Oh my God, you should have seen this.
Really?
I've never seen a grown man cry.
Holy shit, he cried over the camel?
Cried.
God damn.
And he gave a scolding to my little brother. Like, I've never seen it. He didn't head him or anything, but man, he made him feel bad.
Wait, like, was it your brother's fault that the camel died?
Well, it's his job to keep an eye on the camel. So like,
How do you know?
So it was a pregnant camel. So
The fisa, I think there's a special.
There's a special Somali word.
Yeah, in Arabic. Like, there's like, oh my God, I remember like reading. There's a whole fucking, vocabulary for like dealing with camels. Is like on all stages. The one that just gave birth for 3 months, and the one that like the kid camel, the male camel,
and the male camel that's like, the male camel that's ready to mate, or like that's.
Yeah, and it's like actually, if you like, there's certain rituals for like killing them at these stages. Like you can't kill a camel that just gave birth. I don't know. There's like weird rituals. There's a lot of shit.
Anyways, so what happened was, so camels, when they're about to give birth, they're carrying a very fucking large baby. You know what I mean? So if they fall on their side and no one's there to help them back up, they stay on their side and they die. So that's what happened. Is the camel died because there wasn't anyone there to kind of assist and help her and take care of her. So my dad was mad at my little brother, but he was also mad at the fact that he lost not just one camel, but 2 camels.
Yeah, because the baby and the mom died.
And so it was crazy. But at the same time, for me, I was like, you're tripping, bro.
It's just a camel, bro.
Yeah.
That's too bad, bro. That's like almost $1 million. Come on.
Yeah, no, that's like, it's money for sure. And so, so I was there, and I spent 20 days in Badia, is what we call it in Somali.
Badia, Badia. That's Arabic word. It's like the desert.
Yeah. So,
Badia. Like Bedouin are people who live in the desert. Bedouin. That's people who live in the desert. Yeah.
So that's what we call it, the Badia as well.
So you live in the village, but you go to the Badia.
No, my family lives in the Badia. But my dad owns like a kind of like a shack.
So they like move around in the
Badia? They move their.
I would fucking love to go there, man. Like the
we're talking business. You're gonna go.
We gotta go,
right?
Bro, like the amount of legends that like we hear about the people of the Badia, like there's not that many modern ones. I don't know, like does your dad have like a car or like a Hilux or anything?
No.
It's just pure camels.
It's just pure camels.
So like he's like proper traditional, like because like we have Bedouin in Sudan and Saudi, but like they're kind of like very modern Bedouin. So like it would be like in their iPhones. Yeah, they're like they have cell phones. They're like being their cars. Their camels would be like in their fucking thing. So it's like half. It's like not the real shit. So like what you're describing, like that's the real old school.
That's the real old school shit.
OG.
So I was there.
I
just, that's why I was talking about literacy, because like my dad.
They can't read or write.
They can't read or write, and my dad has my dad has 2 sons.
But they're smart.
Yeah, they're smart for their environment. They have to be able to be smart to survive in that harsh environment.
They have the unique wisdom. People in the desert.
But I just saw like my younger sisters, my brother, like all of my siblings besides the one that lives in the United States with me that I haven't seen in 23 years. And they all have kids, man. They all have like 5 kids.
Somalis!
All these kids love me, and they were just coming up to me. Like, of course I brought candy, obviously. So that was the way in. But after that, the bribe. They were like, auntie, uncle, like. And like I just like my heart, and I work with kids in the U.S. and so like I really value children. I think children are important.
But you should have gotten yourself a wife from there, man.
Hell no.
Those Bedouin girls, bro.
Bro,
come on, man. I'm pretty sure your dad tried. I'm very sure your dad tried.
I had multiple marriage proposals. I'm like, you have no idea how broke I am. Let's keep it at that. But I was just sad because I like saw myself in them because I spent the first 6 years of my life
there
in that place, and the same, and it was funny because like the place that they were camping at, my dad was like, yeah, we used to camp here when you were little, and so I was just like, and I was like, what I need to do something to make sure that like at least I can't bring every one of them to the U.S. that I can give them an edge in their own environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can help them move, because
bring it back home,
Yeah.
like don't fucking ship them all.
Yeah, no.
Bring the good shit back home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Build your own people up. Yeah, that's how it works.
So that really just like blew my mind. And like I slept outside every night. I ate with them every night. You know what I mean? They slaughtered a goat every night. Felt pretty honored.
Oh yeah, but that's a very great sign. Like it's considered like the kings when they come, like they would slaughter camels every day, but like slaughtering a goat is like pretty up there too. It's like it's still like, oh man, like when you have a great guest over, like that's one of the greatest signs that like they're honoring you is if they're slaughtering something for you every day.
They're literally going, like that's their money.
Yeah, and it's like throwing cash in the air for them. Making it rain. Bedouin style.
Bedouin style, yeah. And so I was there, man, and like the beautiful thing was just like how beautiful it was there. It was during so there's 2 seasons, and probably in Sudan too, like it's the wet season and the dry season.
Yeah, Sudan is like pretty dry all the year. Like Somalia is, you guys are still in the equator. Like in Sudan, there's no fucking equator. It's like desert all year round. Like there's cold desert and there's hot desert. That's pretty much it. There's no wet desert.
Yeah. So we have the wet season.
Okay.
And so I was there, and that's the most beautiful time. Like everything's raining. It's like the time where all the animals are kind of giving birth. You know what I mean? It's a good time, and like it's like kind of a time of plenty in a sense. Dry season is a little harsher. Like,
it's when you're saving.
Yeah, when you're holding on. To
surviving. Making it. Yeah.
So it was beautiful. I slept outside every night. I went and herded the camels with my little brother.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the way of the prophets, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great honor.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful. I slept under the stars every night, and living in the U.S. and living in cities. You don't see the difference.
Like you're like, what? All these?
Yeah, like it was just like I literally saw the Milky Way every night, and I was just like, I only see that on nature documentaries.
Yeah, National Geographic, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so it was so beautiful, and it was just like it was also like it's beautiful and like really ugly at the same time because there's like. I'm looking at these kids that like are wearing, they have nothing, but they don't know that they have nothing.
But that's the thing, like poverty is relative. It's like, I remember when I did this bit yesterday, but like I remember when I came from the UK to Sudan, like one of the best parts is that I felt like I just became rich instantly because like back in the UK, my dad would buy me like the oldest console, like he'd maybe buy me like one game a year, and I was a big gamer. Like everyone in my school had like the latest console. They had like the PlayStation 2 with the latest Call of Duty, and I'm here like PlayStation 1 playing fucking Pepsi Man. Yeah. But like when I went to Sudan, like just owning a PlayStation like put me in the top 1%. Like fucking everyone wanted to come home with me, right? Like goddamn, like I felt like I was like kids would like go crazy to like just hang out with me, and I'll be like talking about a game that I have, and they're like, oh god, this guy's got a TV and they got like this console that has this lights.
God, it's a trip because for me, and the other cool thing is like and this is like serendipity, like just like.
You know what that word means? You just really like using it.
I really like using it. I think it's just like
happiness.
Yeah, it means. Or like, what's a word that means like, just like miraculously like things happen, the stars align. What is that? What's that? We're looking for that word.
I mean, you could say serendipity. You could say, I can't think of words, but like probably better words. But
I feel like 2021, the stars align and click for my family, and maybe they click for me. Alhamdulillah,
great stuff. It's definitely much like considering the decade before that for you, like fucking massive shift. Like,
fast forward, I gotta catch up. I feel like life is sometimes a race.
You're getting there, bro. Like you're on the right track.
And so it was my nephew and my other nephew from the U.S. both came at that same, like around the same time, and neither of us knew that the other, or I didn't know I was coming. They knew they were coming, but I didn't know they were coming. So it was just like, and they came and visited us in Babiker. And I was so surprised because I never thought I'd meet my nephew from the UK, who ends up being a super cool dude. Like we like the same shit. We like kind of vibe off the same shit. Like we kind of had like the same epiphanies around the same time. He's definitely like 10 years younger than me. But like, you know, he's going through what I went through right now. So I was able to talk to him and like. Yeah, so my nephew, they visited us and like we went to my grandfather's grave, we went to all my uncles' graves that passed. My dad is the youngest of his 4 brothers, he's the only one alive, and my other uncles were very influential. And
How old is your dad?
He's like late 60s. He was born 59. So I don't know.
Well, that's the same year my dad was born.
Yeah.
59. Yeah. So he's exactly 63 because that's how old my dad is.
Yeah. So he's 63. And so we went and visited my grandfather's grave, and that was just like really just like, and it was me, like my nephew from the US, my nephew from the UK, my cousins from here.
Yeah, it's like a big
it was like all the men in the family. You know what I mean? From every brother. There was a son there or a grandson there, you know what I mean? And then my dad was there. So it really felt like, you know, a meeting of like the family, the men of the family, essentially. Get paid homage to our grandfather. And that shit was deep, bro. That was like, that had heart.
That's the good stuff, man.
Yeah,
man. When you feel that family.
Yeah. Just like,
that's the real stuff. That's what matters, bro.
Yeah. I was like,
these are your people, yeah.
And so we did that, and I was there for a while. And then, I was there for a long time. I was there enough to get a sense of like myself, a sense of my family, a sense of what is needed.
And that's when you came here, right?
And then I went back I did the exact same journey that brought me to Babiker. I went back to Bedouin. On the way to Bedouin, I got a little sick, got on antibiotics. So I was like,
I remember I was talking to your dad like before you came here, and he was telling me like, oh yeah, my son like right now he's in Somalia. He's telling me he's under the sky sleeping, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's very interesting. We should meet. Like whenever he comes, we should meet. It's like, yeah, sure. So like I remember this we were like at this time, yeah. So like immediately, and then like eventually you said goodbye to your family.
Eventually, it was a very hard goodbye to say. I definitely cried on the plane leaving at Gates Airport. Because it's just like,
yeah,
I wanted it so long, and now I have to let it go again, you know.
Yeah. But you can, inshallah, always go back. Like,
inshallah. Now the door is open, and I know the way. It shouldn't be that hard, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like the first step is always the hardest.
Yeah.
And so I did the first step. And so I got sick, but I was on antibiotics for a week. But I went to Hargeisa. I stayed in Hargeisa for like 3 days. The one memorable story is that me and my nephew were driving, and we went the wrong way on the one-way, and the cops don't have cars there, so you can like, but they ran up to us and they jumped in our car and they were like, pull over now. So we had these 2 cops sitting in the car with us, and my nephew's freaking out because he's driving, and then I'm like, fuck, I'm the uncle, I'm the older one, I gotta take lead. So I took lead, and I was like, yo, just let me talk to you, because I knew really what he wanted to drive. You know?
That's how it is.
That's how it is. So I was like, let me talk to you, and I ended up giving him like, I think 100 shillings, which is a lot, or 100,000 shillings, which is a lot. It's like $100, or like,
that's a lot.
Yeah. And then my nephew's like, fuck that. And so we went back and we took the money back from them. And
you just stole them back from the police?
Yeah, no, we took the money back, but then they were like, but then you have to leave the car. And so we left the car, we walked, because I was trying to get to the Ethiopian embassy to figure out this like COVID shit, and visa shit. Because like Ethiopia is definitely in the midst of a civil war right now. And
you didn't hear that,
yeah? Yeah, so I was supposed to go, but they stopped all visas. They're like, oh, we're not letting anybody in the country.
Okay.
So last minute I had a freak out moment. I was like, shit, I don't want to, like, I was done with like I was done with my trip. I was ready to go to Europe. I was ready to continue to part 2 of the trip. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it looked like I might have to stay and have days up for like another 2 weeks, and I was like, fuck that.
So?
Because if that was the case, I would have went right back to Babiker, because I really don't like the cities there. It's fucking, you know.
I would imagine, like, you want to be with your family, like, you don't want to be just chilling in the city. Fuck that,
If I'm there, I want to be with my family. And so I tried to go there. We were like, fuck it, we'll deal with this later. Let's take our money back. Because he was like, that's way too much. You should just give him $20. And so I tried to give him $20, but I already gave him $100.
They know you have 100.
So why would he want the 20, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, whatever. We'll leave the car. We'll come back. You know, they do have tow trucks, but tow trucks take a long ass time to get there. So we're like, we'll come back. Maybe he'll be a different guy. Maybe he'll calm down. Realize we're tough negotiators, you know.
Okay.
So we go there, the Ethiopian embassy's closed, so we walk back. And it's really nice. Like, Hargeisa is a really big ass city, it's really beautiful. Like, there's wealth amongst the poverty. There's mad wealth in there.
I can imagine. There's some rich people there.
Yeah. Like,
pirates making that big money.
Pirates, and then people from the West, but also
sending the money
people
back.
in positions of power really hold on toward the money.
Yeah, that's
unfortunately
how it goes.
Like, there's a beautiful mosque in the middle of the city that's like just probably gorgeous. That was cost millions, definitely in the millions. And I'm like, you can't fucking fix
this and like
you can't fix the fucking road, bro.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? You can't have a free.
Like in these kind of countries, you see the biggest differences between the super rich and the super poor.
Yeah.
And the thing is that a lot of them don't have like shame of hiding it. Like they would parade it around in front of the poor.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like driving nice ass fucking Range Rovers that are like
Land Cruisers.
Yeah, that like $70,000 in the U.S. You know what I mean? Like you have to have money to have that shit.
Yeah.
And like there's a guy just asking for one shilling, which is like not even a penny. You know what I mean? So this is like I hated it. So, but it was also good to see. We came back, ended up being the same guy. I talked to him. I ended up giving him like $60. It was like, just take this, give us the car, because it was my cousin's car. I was the oldest.
Yes.
I didn't want to be responsible
for any problems.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, just take it, give me the car.
Okay.
I ended up actually giving one of the cops arrived home.
Alright.
And he ended up being really cool, just like being like,
this is such a Somali
being
story.
like this is just how it is. And it's like the government pays me $100 a month, and I have a bunch of kids, and like so the way we get the rest of our salary
money
is
is
like
bribes.
So he's like, yeah, we make like
system,
an extra $200 from bribes a month, and that's how I feed my family. Please don't take it personal. Like this is just how it is. And I was like,
whatever, bro.
Yeah, whatever, bro. Get the fuck out the car. See you later. Like, I was still a little salty, but I also was like, I humbled myself, and I was like, $60 ain't shit to me, but that's something to them.
Yeah.
And so I left. I was able to figure out that I have an American passport, so I have visa-free access to multiple countries, including the United Arab Emirates. So I was like, fuck you, Ethiopia.
I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna fly to Dubai.
You got somewhere, okay.
So then I spent a couple of days in Dubai, and that shit was pretty cool. But it was also really crazy because it was like the Emiratis there got their nose up in the air so high that you can't even see that shit.
I like how you got that from just a few days.
Oh yeah, bro! Like just oh my god! They're like I asked for help at the airport. I was like, sir, do you work here? He's like, what do you mean do I work here? I was like, damn, bro, I'm just asking. I'm like, he's like, you should be able to tell that I work here, like, just like the chest puffing, I was like, whatever, bro, take care.
Yeah.
I stayed at a Marriott. It was pretty cool. I tried to go to a club, but it was not really that cool. Alcohol is really expensive there, so I was like, I don't even want to drink.
Okay.
We don't even need to talk about that at all. But. So anyways, I was there. I went to like the Burj Khalifa. That was really cool. It was a beautiful view of the city. Like
you went to the top.
I really, they have their nose up in the air, and maybe they do have a right to because like what they've done with that country in just such a short time, and it's fucking miraculous. Like it's like a modern miracle in many ways. Because like Dubai in itself, like in 1970 was envisioned like a small fishing village.
It was like nothing.
Yeah, it was nothing, and now it's
like a global capital.
Yeah, it rivals New York City now, and so maybe they could humble themselves a little bit. They have done a lot.
It's like it doesn't come from nowhere.
Yeah, comparing.
We're gonna cut that out. You can't say that. But
yeah. I mean, but I feel like they're the one like Middle Eastern countries that figured out what to do with their oil before it was
cool. Yeah. I mean, Saudi caught up to it a bit late, but I mean, they're I would say Saudi and the rest of the Gulf countries are following in UAE.
They're leading the way now because they're like, wait, we can turn this into this, you know, and it's just like, you know, beautiful shopping malls, beautiful everything. All the glitter and gold was in Dubai, man.
Yeah,
it was like.
It is what it is, yeah.
But also, like, you know, it's like a foreign worker country. All the workers are like from India, Southeast Asia, Africa, and like I feel like there's some like human rights shit going on that's not right, and like maybe that's not spoken of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might have to cut that out too.
Yeah. Probably, but it's fine, bro.
But like, there's just like, it was really nice, but I realized that like, it was also very...
It's hard to understand, I think.
Yeah, it's like...
You need to spend a while to like get like how shit works there.
It's like...
very like...
complex. It's a complex society.
Yeah.
And it was built very fast.
Very hierarchical, very... It mixes the old with the new in a very weird and unique way.
Yeah, because they're still very like... hold on to their culture very much.
Yeah, like they're very picky and choosy about what they hold on to, but like what they do choose to hold on to, you know, they hold on to very tightly.
Very tightly.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. It was beautiful to be, you know, for me, growing up in the United States, growing up in the Midwest, like you said, it's very white, it's very like idealized America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Suburbs and like, you know, like whatever like the idea of America is in the movies, it's definitely the Midwest.
Visualized there, implemented, executed there.
Yeah. And so for me, it's really nice to be like, in an all African country. Ethiopia, Somalia. But it was
those are like very, very African countries.
Yeah, and then it was also very nice to be in a very modern country that was very developed, that was not Western and white, you know. It kind of showed me that like there
different
are
places can work in their own way.
Yeah, and so and it was like, I spent it by myself. I didn't really make any friends, but like I went to the mall to buy.
Yeah, I don't think you had enough time to like make
to buy a mall. It was really cool. I got my phone screen fixed, and like it was really man, their food court is crazy.
The food in the UAE is the best. Probably the best in the world. Like the quality, the variety.
The variety is
crazy. Yeah. Like you can find it's the only place I feel like in the world where you can find every kind of food and it's all good. It's like because you go to some places like maybe the sushi sucks, or like Middle Eastern food sucks. You go to Prague, all the food sucks. We're gonna cut that out now. Fuck that station. But like it is what it is. And like the food in the UAE. Like I remember because like we spent vacation there. Like everything tasted just so good. Like no matter where you ordered, no matter what restaurant, American restaurant, like a Middle Eastern.
I went to a Thai restaurant, fucking good.
Just insanely good. Yeah.
I went to a Thai restaurant, Burger King.
Like UAE, like Dubai specifically, because this is not all the UAE. This is just Dubai. But like Dubai is like it's like I'm saying in the Arabic way. Dubai. It's like
you say
Dubai. It's really a business-driven place, and it really allows like what I like about it that like isn't true about other Gulf countries is that you as a foreigner can go there and own a business and run your business. No matter how whatever way you want with like almost zero taxes. It's like so that's why like the best the best restaurant owners you want to fucking serve there's probably no better place to serve than Dubai. It's like the dream to go there. So it's really attracts like the best some of the best business owners, artists, fucking, coffee shop owners, like restaurant owners, like that's the dream, and it's a very attractive place to go to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If you have money, yeah, it is a very attractive place.
Yeah. Just open your business, just go there, live there. You get permanent.
It's hot. It's hot.
It's very hot. You went in the summer, I assume. It's fucking hot.
It's
shit.
cool.
But it's very air conditioned.
But it's also it's so extreme.
When you go outside,
to the outside,
yeah.
I feel like it's not even good for your health because it's such a shock to the body.
Yeah. You get the humidity because it's the it's like you have the humidity as well. It's like strangling you.
It's like because I wouldn't go out till like 5 and it was still hot.
No. That's the problem with humidity, because humidity, like in a dry place, like it's hot in like the hottest is in the middle of the day, but like if there's humidity, like that heat fucking stays. So it's at 5, it's just as hot as it is at like 12. Because like that humidity keeps like that suffocation, that sweatiness, it keeps that heat. So it would be nighttime and you'd still feel that suffocation. It would still fucking suck. So that's how it is. But anyways, I think that's enough about Dubai. Let's go to the next stop.
So I was in Dubai 3 days. Took a flight, came to Prague. And Prague is quite unique, man. Prague, I enjoy some of the people.
I enjoy some of the people.
Some of the people are cool, is what I'm trying to say.
Who are the people who are not cool? Any names? Come on, any bars?
Mohammed.
Come on.
I like the expat community here.
They're great. The comedy scene, man. The comedy scene here is fucking amazing. I just love hanging out with comedians here. They're the best people.
So the comedy, that's how I met you. That's really cool. I also met some Czech kids,
just in the bar, how did you?
I went to a local bar and I saw a guy with Wu-Tang shirt on, and we started talking. He started, he smokes herb, and so I started smoking herb with him. And I bought a little from him, and he was like, "You should hang out with me and my friends." And I was like, "Cool." And at first I was like, "Man, he's really trying to rob me." They trying to set me up, but no, they're just really cool. They wanted to show me their city, and we went out, hung out, super cool, super fun. Cool, welcoming people, and so I spent 5 days by myself at the Marriott because I was supposed to quarantine. Nobody follows those rules though. It's
people since the opening, since late May, early June, no one gives a fuck.
Nobody gives a fuck. And so I kind of but I stayed around the people that I was staying with that came to visit. They give a fuck.
Brandon and everyone.
Brandon, his wife especially gave a fuck. So I kept
it
chill.
Okay. She didn't feel like someone who gave a fuck, but okay.
But she just didn't want to, she she had a family vacation.
Wait, sorry, I think I'm mixing. I don't think I've met Brandon's wife.
I
think I was confusing her with the black guy's girlfriend. She gives a fuck, what?
And so then I went after my 5 days in Prague, and then I got retested. Obviously, I was vaccinated, and I've been tested. This is interesting. I think since I left the United States, I've been tested for COVID at least 15 times.
That's how travel goes here. You want to go sneeze in the next city? Fucking COVID test. I have to do a COVID test tomorrow. Actually, I haven't booked it yet. But
you should do it.
I should do it.
I think they charge you way extra if you do it last night.
No, I have public insurance, so I don't pay anything.
Okay. I have to pay $250.
I just got the public insurance. I had to pay a fuckload when I came here because I didn't have public insurance.
$250.
If you have public insurance, you get 2 free tests a month, so it's pretty good. The insurance system here is very weird. If you work full time, it's amazing. But if you're here visiting or if you're here on any private insurance, it's absolute garbage. It doesn't cover anything. So but anyways, that's a dumb sidetrack. Let's talk about
insurance.
Yeah, and so and you've been like visiting other places as well. Like you've gone to France, you have your aunt there. You met them. How was that like?
France is more colorful, I might say, as in like there's more people are colored.
Yeah,
France.
France fucking like you know like 40% of France is like Muslim.
Yeah.
40%. That's a large percentage, bro.
That's why they're scared of it.
Okay, so it turns out that this is actually not true. I'm not sure where I got that from. It's actually 5%. So yeah. Like in 2020 or 2020, 21, 21, like these are the 2 years that like Islamophobia went down because people have other priorities like COVID and other shit.
Yeah.
Everywhere except France. Like France is still like Islam is our number one threat. Like you gotta deal with these problems and like
French culture.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Like it's crazy.
Like, dude,
over there. Like let's ban the veil one more time. It's like yeah.
That was also very interesting. Like my aunt Hibo, she lives in France. She lives kind of on the Atlantic coast, in a city called Van. So I flew into Charles de Gaulle, took a train, and shot out of Paris right away. I spent 5 days with her in her home. She's married to a French man. His name is Jean-Luc, but that's his French name.
His Muslim name? Yeah, I was about to ask.
Hassan,
right.
And they were very lovely. You know, they're older people, they're retired. I was a former French soldier, and they met in Djibouti, which is a former French colony. And so they got married in the 70s. They had 3 kids who were also Muslim, but they're like half French, half Somali. They grew up in France, and so I feel like they
must have been interesting.
Yeah,
to talk with.
Yeah. No, my cousin especially, who I spent one night with. He lives an hour from Paris. And we had some really good discussions. I asked him many questions. I've been curious. You know, I've been reading about these laws being passed in France. And you know, for the sake of secularism. But I was telling my sister-in-law, his wife, like I'm like they're walking a very thin line. You know, like. You know,
like it's, at this point, it's a joke to even call it secularism. Like when you say, because you know, like secularism is, let's say, a separation between churches. But like in France, just to put it very bluntly, it's like it's the control of religion by the state. Yeah. Like that's the execution of it. There's no like the state regulates very very strictly how you practice religion, and they're very blunt and open about it. Like they don't even try to like. And the thing is that they've been doing that with Christianity for a while, like since 100 years, and it's like to be honest, secularism and the way it's executed among many countries is very different. Like I actually am a very big fan of how it works in the US, because in the US it's kind of like you actually genuinely leave the church alone. You don't tax it, you don't interfere with it. You know, you don't control, you don't tell the church how to teach people things. Like, you know, you actually, it's genuine. The state leaves the church alone, and the church, you know, never overrules the state. It's genuine separation. But like when I look at France, it's not really separation. It's like, it's domination. It's like hierarchical relationship. Like, bitch, you know, this is what I'm telling you.
Conform.
You know, like tuck that hijab in, girl.
One thing that I noticed is like the mosque in Van. I went to the mosque with my uncle. He goes to the mosque every day for every prayer, pretty much. So I went with him a couple of times just to check it out, and like the inside of it looks like a mosque, but the outside of it looks like an office building. And I like that's done on purpose. You know what I mean?
You know, here in the Czech Republic, like most of the mosques are like that, unfortunately. Yeah. They're built outside to not look like mosques, so that they don't get targeted. There's only one mosque here that's like openly, like very clearly, you walk past it, it's a mosque, and that gets vandalized like every year, at least once. It's like pathetically sad.
And it's like
how these things work.
Islamophobia is real, man. And like
In Europe, yes.
And even in the U.S.
Yes, in the
and
US.
San Francisco.
I would say I lived in the UK. Like that's one of I'd say UK is one of the best places. I feel like it's a little bad now, but it's like with you. At least when I was there, it was like one of the best places to where you can feel like you can safely be Muslim in a lot of like the Muslim communities. I don't know if you've been like to the UK and like seen how things are there, but I think I genuinely feel like Muslims there are treated like probably the best in like any Western country. Although I'm like the last few years are like
the United States there as well. They
in the US they have their communities as well.
You know what I said? I was talking to my sister-in-law, and we were talking about this, and I was like, I think because Islamophobia is on the rise across the world. You look at India.
I'd say it's chilled since 2020. It was
it's
definitely
still simmering.
it's still there. Like it hasn't disappeared for sure, but like it was like when you like 2018 to 2019, that shit was like fucking getting way out of control. Yeah. With the Uyghurs and the
the Uyghurs is still happening. So like that's still happening.
It's still happening, but like at least
that's.
It did chill down though. Like I was following recently. It hasn't disappeared, but let's say it's
they're still in camps.
Not really. They're in different camps now.
It's still fucked up.
It's still fucked up, man.
Yeah.
Trying to even defend it sucks, but
you can't
defend it. Yeah.
They're being prosecuted because they practice Islam in a state with no religion, and they're being targeted because of that. But I think they're being targeted because they're not Han Chinese.
Yeah, it's an ethnic religious thing. It's just like a textbook. Evil.
The thing is and then on the last day was yesterday, and so me and my cousin woke up at like 5 a.m. He had to work at 1 o'clock, so we got to Paris around 8:30. We went to the Eiffel Tower. We went to the top, took some pictures, chilled. He took me on a really fast tour of the city. We saw the Somali Embassy. We saw the obelisk that Napoleon took from Egypt, and we talked about how Paris is so pretty and London is so pretty because he stole so much shit from everywhere in the world. You know what I mean?
That's how things work over there.
Yeah, their cities are so nice because they've taken from every culture and brought it home.
In the UK, there's a whole museum, just purely about things from Sudan.
Really?
Yeah. Just like a Sudan museum. I've never been there. My dad went there and he told me about it. And
it's like why can't we take these things back to Sudan and then people?
I don't know. I haven't been there, but I don't think it's mostly stuff taken from Sudan. I think it's just stuff about it. But British rule in Sudan is very interesting and it's very influential. The British fucking Prime Minister, the big one, the fat one. What's he called?
Boris?
No, the old fat one, the one in the World War fucking II.
Oh, Churchill.
Churchill, yeah. That guy, he fought.
He fought in Sudan.
He fought in Sudan. He wrote the famous book, the River War, which is pretty much a whole. It was very well written. It's a whole history of Sudan, basically. From pretty much old Islamic times, to the modern, to the war. And I read that book. It's very racist, but it's very well written.
Very racist.
Yeah, racist, man. You know what he said? It was fucking painfully racist. The guy was the Arabs, they're in the race hierarchy. Africans are here, Arabs are here, and then we're here. So you can make Arabs manage the Africans, but you have to put a white person to that. You're just discussing this casually in the book, and it's you're just cringing
and name streets and fucking
Here, there are streets called Churchill.
There's a street in Addis Ababa named after him. The street my aunt lives on is named after him.
Yeah.
I could write a whole blog about how I've been on Churchill Street in Addis Ababa, fucking France.
Man. There used to be, in Sudan, they were very, the governments after were very anti-colonial, so we removed any sort of mention of them or anything. But there used to be a statue of the British guy that ruled, that was the fucking ruler of Sudan. What was he called? Gordon, yeah. This guy, very big deal, in Sudan. But the Mahdi was the king who king or like the ruler who rebelled against the British and like killed this guy. Like he's really popular in like Sudanese history. And yeah, like he was the one who like took down the statue and was like, fuck these guys. It's like yeah. But yeah, they took us again, and then we got our freedom again.
And then Egypt.
Yeah, Egypt has its own story. Egypt, I would argue, is still colonized, but like let's keep that. Let's keep that to another day.
Yeah, where were we?
Fuck, I don't know.
Anyways, France is nice.
France is nice.
France is
No.
nice.
Yeah, but I think I wanted to ask you like how was hanging out with your mom like because I think she's like I mean I don't know if you have like educated Western Muslim. If you ever met that like mix before, because that's like a very specific kind of.
That was very unique, especially like her son, who is pretty much like he's wealthy. He's wealthy for sure. He told me, like he and cut this out, but like he's so.
That's at least 3 camels.
Right? But like, and like talking to him, he's very modest and humble, and like, you wouldn't know.
He's also like a like I guess like they raise their kids to be practicing Muslim.
Very. He was like, saw me like drinking or eating with my left hand, he'd freak out. So he's pretty
Yeah, you weren't smoking and drinking over there, huh, bitch?
Hell no.
That's awesome.
But you gotta respect people in their environments, and like you don't be overbearing with your bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've learned that as I travel.
No, for sure. You have to learn. You have to learn to be. You have to learn to be a good guest.
Yeah.
That's
You gotta.
You're
Keep a light footprint, kind of.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. And
Keep
so.
a light footprint.
But like it was really nice just to hanging out with him, talking to him, seeing his view. Talking to my aunt and like.
Did they try to do like dawah on you or like?
What is that?
Dawah is like basically like called you to Islam. Like they were like, you
absolutely. It's been done to me also. And like I'm not gonna lie, like I definitely.
You feel the need.
I feel the need, and like as I'm getting older, like I started feeling it when I was like 27. Like I was like, started thinking more about spirituality and like religion and like what is it like. How do am I being a good Muslim? Do I want to be a better Muslim? Do I want to, and like, that's questions that I'm asking myself, but I feel like as I get older, I feel myself being pulled closer to the religion and to the culture, and like, they're one and the same, especially for Somalis, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing, it's like, in like Somali culture is like such embedded like into Islam, like I can't, which is why I always find it like so disjointing when I see like people who are like Somali but like are very publicly like anti-Islam. Like I mean, you may have heard of like the famous like Ayam Hirsi or name or like Hirsi Ali. You haven't? Okay, good. Don't look up that name. But like there are some, let's say, public Somali figures who are like very not fond of Islam and like, let's say, not very respectful about how they aren't in on the faith. So that's always like, oh really? Like you?
I mean, but
like, show a little bit of respect. Like it's like you don't have to follow it, but like how it is.
It was really interesting getting their point of view. He married a French woman, and she became Muslim for him. Or like,
wait, who?
My cousin. Maybe not for him, but like, yeah, maybe for him. I don't know. Like, she became Muslim, or he would be with her. So essentially, yeah, she became a Muslim because she wanted to be with him.
I mean, do you know what's in her heart? Like, you never know for sure.
But like, no, in her heart, she's a good Muslim too. But like, he's a very practicing Muslim, and if you want to be with this man, they met in college, and like he was like they were friends. This is the story my aunt tells me. They were friends, and he was like, if you want to like, just like,
if you want to make it serious, up your game.
Yeah, you gotta like,
up your religious game.
Yeah, you gotta put your religious game on point, girl. And she's super sweet, super nice lady. They had 3 kids, really beautiful. Like, and what I was really interested in is like none of them look Somali. They all look Caucasian. Every one of them looks Caucasian.
Have you heard of? You probably have. Have you heard of this hadith?
No.
Okay, it might be inappropriate, but anyways, so there's a saying of the Prophet that says that, basically, like whoever ejaculates first? Like the kid would look like that.
Okay. Oh, like whoever comes first?
Yeah.
So essentially, maybe she's an early comer then. But he also is like, he looks kind of Somali, like my cousin. So he's half Somali. His kids.
His father. Yeah, like his father.
Yeah,
is
so
white.
like,
So like
yeah.
he has those genes, right?
Yeah, so his kids are 75% like Caucasian.
White, yeah. So it makes sense that they
So they look dominantly, but there's one that looks very like she's pale and blonde hair, and I was like, wow.
You're Somali.
You're part Somali, but like it's really cool. They speak Somali, like
They're like white, blonde hair.
Yeah, they speak Somali.
That would be so weird.
But like the thing is, like my family now has like it's like 10 members that are like half white or more than half white, you know.
Yeah.
So that's part of like us coming to the West is like part of our family blood has become, you know, diluted, colonized.
From a Somali perspective, but like from a Muslim perspective, like
yeah. I mean, if they're practicing Muslims and they're beautiful and they're kind, and I have no
that's what matters the most.
Yeah, and but from a Somali perspective, diluted. And so I had a great time in France. You know,
now you're
back
back
in
here,
Prague, and I'm so excited because I'm back with my man Mohammed.
It's awesome.
He's one of the funniest comedians. He encouraged me to go up on stage.
Oh man, your show was great. Like honestly, it was a blast. You should do it more often. But yeah, it's great, man.
Yeah.
It's great to have you here. Good to have you back. I'm looking forward to seeing where you go from. Where you get to in your life and in your journey and in your fucking comedy and your rap and everything.
Like us, you know, at the animal market and Riyadh.
In Riyadh, like just selling the camels, like just shipping with a shipment of like 50 camels, like making this dough.
I mean, why not, man?
Alright, we need to turn off the camera so we can talk more deep business.
Thank you.
But yeah, man, thanks for coming here. It's an honor to be my first physical guest and my second like guest on the podcast. It has been a blast. Very fun. And yeah, we're gonna see how much of this actually makes it.
Right, makes it.
But yeah, live life as a traveler. Take only what you need along the way. Yeah. See you guys. Assalam.
Assalam.